Good morning and welcome to all dear students in class 8th. Today I am here, your social science teacher, before you with history chapter number 2. So first of all, let us have a look, children, that in class 8 history what we are going to read about. So in class 8 our history deals with the modern history. Okay, the modern period of history we are going to cover up in the class 8 history. That means the time period from 18th century and onwards. We are going to read about this time period in class 8, and in class 7 we have read about the medieval history, that is the middle history. That means the time period which has started from 8th century and lasted till 18th century. So that already we have read. Okay, so the last chapter of class 7 still where we had ended. So from there only our chapter number 2 of history has been started. I'll just show you how the link is connected with our previous chapter. Okay, so our title goes like this of chapter number 2, from trade to territory, the company establishes power. So in this chapter we are going to read that how and what were the factors through which the company of the Europe, the company which had come from Europe continent, that is British Empire. So the company which had come from Great Britain from Europe continent, how they had established their power in India and why did they come to India. This is what we are going to read in this chapter. So to begin with, children, first of all, let us read some of the background story of the 17th century. So in the who was the last and the most important powerful ruler of the Mughal Empire? He was Aurangzeb. Okay, and during his reigning period, his extent of the territories were at the peak. Okay, he had extended a largest part of area during his ruling period. That is, he had got control from Afghanistan, that is Kabul, Kandahar. So from these two places in Afghanistan, that is in northwest boundary, he had started expanding his territory till eastern part of India and also beyond Myanmar. So some part of Myanmar also he got under his control, and then he also is extended, means increased his territories. Territories means an area of land whose owner is legally, officially either a ruler or a state government. So in Deccan Plateau, that is in southern plateau, that is in southern part of India, also he had extended his power till Mysore, Karnataka, Puducherry, Madras. Okay, so his territorial extent was the largest. And when he died in 1707, then afterwards Shah Alam, he became the next Mughal empire, and he started ruling in the name of Bahadur Shah Zafar I, but he was a very weak ruler and he could not rule for a longer time. Then after him also many Mughal rulers came and they started ruling in Delhi. From Delhi, they started ruling in all over India, but they could not get good control over the country. So that is what happened. So many governors were there. The governors were known as Subedars. So many Subedars were there from Bengal, okay, Bengal, like Murshid Quli Khan. Then from Hyderabad we have Asif Shah. Then from Awadh we had Sadat Khan. So they all started revolting, rebelling, and raising the voice against the weak Mughal Empire. And they also asserted independent kingdoms. Asserted means they demanded. They demanded that now we don't want to be a part of Mughal Empire. We want to rule independently. So we want our independent states. So this is how slowly what was happening, children. The main Mughal Empire, he was losing its power, losing its control, and the other Subedars and the governors, they started becoming Nawabs of their respective kingdoms, and this is how the breaking of the provinces, means breaking of the small kingdoms, were taking place. And this was only the reason that how the Mughal Empire was slowly and gradually was getting declining and weakened. Okay. So that is why children from Delhi could no longer function as an effective center, because all the Mughal empires after Aurangzeb, they were quite weaker and they lacked in the administrative skills. Then what happened when when the Mughal Empire got very weakened? Then this was a time when in 16th century, 17th century, or many people, many foreigners, especially from the Europe continent, that is from Great Britain, from England, from London, they started coming to India in the form of traders. Okay, so now a new chapter is going to begin in history. So these people, they had come to India initially in the form of traders, because that time India was the wealthiest country, richest country in the world in the terms of natural resources, and India's cotton and silk was worldwide very famous. And even our spices like cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, black pepper, they were at a great demand in all over the world, especially in the European countries, because the spices were not able to grow in those countries because of the unsuitable climate. But the market of Europe was very big and very vast. So there was a great demand of Indian spices in the European market. That is why many European people, traders, they wanted to come to India, and since a long time they were exploring the sea routes, so that anyhow they can reach India and they can start trading with India. So because of this reason, all the traders, when especially when Jahangir was ruling in 1658, that time the first European who came to India in the court of Jahangir, he was Thomas Roe. So he was the first one who came to India from Europe, and he was warmly welcomed by Jahangir. And this is how when these all European traders, they got a very good response and warm welcome. So slowly and gradually in 16 and then in later on 17th century, the traders in large number, they started coming to India. So initially, children, these traders, these Britishers, they were reluctant, means they were not ready to rule India. They only have come to India in the form of traders, and they had to do nothing with the ruling or establishing their power in India. But some of the circumstances and the reasons also, and some of the conditions also led them to be the ruler in India. And this is what we are going to read in this chapter only, that what were those reasons and what were the battles Britishers had fought with the Indian local rulers, and how did they capture Indian kingdoms, and then slowly and gradually with the help of their other annexation policies. Now what is the meaning of annexation? Annexation means when you're joining some other's territory into your own territory. Okay, when you're adding someone's land into your own land, this is known as annexation. So Britishers, we will see later on in this chapter only. Initially, they have fought two battles. Then later on also they have fought many battles, and also many other times they have introduced their diplomatic, economic policies for the annexation of kingdoms. So this is all we are going to read in this chapter number 2. So this was a basic introduction of this chapter. And children, what you can see in this picture? You can see Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was the last Mughal emperor, and you can see that he was very old that time, and he was arrested. Why he was arrested? Because in 1857, okay, now we are moving from 1707, we are moving to 1857. We'll just have a glimpse that what had happened actually in the year 1857. So now after 100 years, at least around 100 years of slavery period, our Indian people, they have tolerated and they had passed also. So now the first Indian struggle had started in the year 1857, and in this Indian independence struggle, uh, this struggle of independence, the people almost from all over India, all the people, be the common citizen or be the rulers, nawabs, queens, everybody had participated very actively, and they all have gone to Delhi to convince Bahadur Shah Zafar that he had to lead this revolt, this first freedom of independence first revolt of independence. So Bahadur Shah Zafar, he did not deny and he became the leader. And when this initially it was very successful, but afterwards this independence, this struggle was very badly crushed by the Britishers. So then Bahadur Shah Zafar, you can see that he was arrested by Captain Hudson. So this was a situation in 1857. This was also, we can see here that this was the condition of the Mughal Empire in the year 1857. And he was the last Mughal Empire. Okay children, now we are going to move ahead. Yeah. Now see the first topic of this chapter. East India Company comes to East. What does this statement mean? And here a map is also shown here. On your screen, the map is also visible here. So East India had come east to it means in which part of the, or we can say that in which hemisphere does India lie? So India lies in the northeastern hemisphere. Okay, and normally, commonly we say that India is an eastern country. So the Britishers in 16th century, the Britishers, those who have come from Great Britain, so they had, the name of their company was East India Company, and that Eastern India Company only had come to the eastern part of the country named India. So that is why this statement is mentioned here. So what happened? The East India Company, the people, those who have formed, okay, those who have formed this East India Company, so initially before coming to India, they had gone to their Queen Elizabeth I, who was that time Queen of England. So they all have gone there and they requested Queen Elizabeth to give them a charter. Okay, to give them a charter. So what is the meaning of charter? Charter means, charter is a kind of a legal permission or a legal right or a exclusive right through which only the British East India Company will be having the right to come to India and to trade in India. That means that no other country will be having the right to come to India from Great Britain, only from Great Britain. So this was the sole right, exclusive right, which was given to the East India Company of the Great Britain by Queen Elizabeth I, and the name of this legal permission or the sole right was charter. Okay, and the main purpose of the Britishers to come to India was that to purchase the goods here in India at a very lower price and to sell the things at a very higher rate in the higher rates in the European market so that they can earn the huge profit. Okay, so see one more term you can see here, mercantile. See here, the company did not have to fear competition from any other English trading companies from England. Okay, and mercantile trading companies in those days were making profit primarily by excluding competition. So this is how a business, let us see first of all what is the meaning of mercantile. Mercantile means a trading objective. It was a kind of a trading objective according to which only these business companies or these business enterprises will have the right to trade in a particular country so that they can make a huge profit through trade, and they can buy, and they will adopt which policy? They will adopt the policy of purchasing the goods at a very cheaper rate, and they will be selling those goods at a very higher price. So according to the policy of mercantile, the Britishers East India Company, they had decided to come to India and do trade in India. Okay. Now the Royal Charter was given by Queen Elizabeth to the East India Company. So finally now the ships had started sailing down from England. Okay. Now we can have a look at this map, children. See, above Africa, what you can see the European country. Okay, I'm going to zoom it out here. Yeah. Now you can see here. Above Africa, what do we have? We have British Islands. In British Islands, we are having so many European countries here, like UK. Okay, in UK only we have the England, Great Britain. Then we also have a Netherlands. Then we also have a Portuguese. Okay, and even France is also there below to them. So all these countries, they wanted to come to India, and they had come also to India for trading purpose. So from this route only, you can see here, from this route only the Britishers, they had started coming to India from British Islands. And then it was a very long journey, very long route, as you can see the black arrow. So the Black Arrow has started from the British Islands, and then ships had sailed from British Islands, and then it had crossed Africa, and from Africa it had reached at the bottom. The lowermost place is known as the Cape of Good Hope. So they have taken such a big round, and from Cape of Good Hope they have reached to India, and from India either they have say they have entered in India through Bombay or through Madras coastal area, or to Bengal, from the Bengal. So these were the three places by which these European traders they have entered India. So this was a very long route, and this route was taking around 6 to 8 months and sometimes more than 8 months also before any other means of transport was developed from Great Britain to India. So trade route also we have seen, children, here. Okay. So this is how the English ships they had sailed down to the west coast of Africa, and they have crossed Cape of Good Hope, and then they had crossed the Indian Ocean, and this is how the Portuguese people from Portugal also they had come to India. Okay, and they had settled down in Goa. Now, Vasco da Gama was the first Portuguese explorer and the sailor who had discovered the sea route to India in the year 1498, and he had reached in Calicut in Goa. And even the Dutch from the Netherlands also, they were also searching for the possibilities of the trade in the Indian Ocean, and even the French people also followed them. So what happened, children, ki now East India Company, those who have come from Britain, they were not facing any tough competition from the Britain. Okay, because from the Britain no other company was coming, but from the Europe continent many countries like from France, from Portugal, from Netherlands, many traders were coming to India. So this is how we will see now further that East India Company is going to face a very tough competition, a very unhealthy competition and rivalry with other European countries. So this was the biggest problem. And the problem was that now all the companies they wanted to buy the same products from India. Everybody wanted to buy cotton, silk, and the spices. Okay, and that time India was the major trading center of these cotton, silk, and all the other spices. Okay, like you can see pepper, cloves, cardamom, cinnamon. They were in a great demand in the European market. So now the competition was that everybody wanted, all these countries they wanted to purchase these commodities. Okay, but what had happened now, when the demand was higher of these goods, so then what had happened, the price had increased of these commodities, Indian commodities. So all these European countries they had to purchase these commodities at a very higher rate. So when they were purchasing at a very higher rate, so then when they used to sell in their European countries in their own market, they were not getting the good profit. So this was a problem which East India Company had noticed, that we are not able to earn a good profit and our profit is reduced because everybody, all these traders, they wanted to purchase this all these commodities from India. Okay, so this is how then the British company they thought and they estimated that only way to earn the profit was that, and the only way by which British East India Company can flourish their trade in India was that anyhow we have to eliminate, means we have to remove our rival competitors from India. Then only the British East India Company can survive in India. Okay. So then what happened as a result of it, children, all the trading companies they were having the fierce and very dangerous battle between them, and these battles were marked in 17th and 18th century. And what they used to do as a result of it with each other, they used to sink each other's ships, blockaded the sea routes, and they also prevented the rival ships from moving with the supplies of the goods. Okay, so this is how in the sea only, in between the sea only, they were keeping the arms and ammunitions and the weapons, and this is how they were fighting the wars with each other. Yeah. So now the trade has taken a very serious issue. The trade was continued with the arms and weapons. Okay, and the trading post. Now, what are the trading post? Trading posts are those places where these all these foreign traders, they used to keep their goods in a proper place, in a secure place. So this place was known as trading post, or you can say also kind of go down. It was where these all traders, they used to keep their goods after purchasing. Okay, so now these all foreign traders, what they started doing, they started protecting their trading post through fortification. So what is the meaning of fortification? To build the forts. And how to build the forts? By building huge boundary walls, tall huge boundary walls around the trading post. So this is how they were transforming and converting the trading post into forts. Okay, huge forts they were keeping, and along with that, for the security purpose, they were using the arms and weapons also, guns also. And slowly and gradually we are going to see that they have appointed soldiers, and later on they will be keeping army also for their protection. Yeah, but this has intensified, means this has made very angry to the Indian local rulers. Why? Why the Indian local rulers were very angry? Because they did not want that these foreign invaders, these foreign traders, sorry, these foreign traders should make or construct any type of building or fort into their country. Okay, because these were outsiders, and even they have not taken the permission. These Britishers have not taken any sort of legal permission from the local rulers. That is why the local rulers they were not in favor of getting constructed any sort of fort into their kingdoms. So finally children, now we are moving to our next topic. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. So the first English factory was set up on the banks of river Hooghly in 1651, which is in Bengal. Okay, and here what is the meaning of the term factory? It means trading post. Okay, it means a very big godown. It was initially, the factory was like a very big godown where the goods were kept and stored for the purpose of the trade. Okay, and then so from here only the word factory has come, and the company traders were known as factors. Okay, the company trade was known as the factors, and the place where they used to store the things, store the goods for selling purpose, that place was known as factory. And in the previous topic we have covered up that now company has done the fortification. Okay, means how they have done the fortification, it means they have made a huge defensive boundary walls around the trading post. Okay, and there what they have done, they have appointed the army also, they have kept the soldiers also, and to the soldiers they have given the arms and weapons also. So this kind of process is known as fortification. So the Britishers, they have given this excuse that for the protection from the other European countries, they want the protection. So that is why they are doing the fortification of the trading post, that is of their factories. Okay. So this factory had a warehouse where they used to keep their goods. Then slowly and gradually the Britishers, they require merchants also, traders also. Okay, so they brought everyone closer to the factory. Slowly they started persuading the other people, the merchants and the traders, that they asked them to settle down near the factory. Okay, and this way they have started guarding the factory also, and this is how they have made a very big strong fort. Okay, but the ultimate goal of the Britishers was to earn the big profit. So what they did in the year 1696, after fortification, what they started doing, after 2 years, they started bribing Mughal officials also. Bribing means they were giving a huge amount of money or gifts to the Mughal officers, because now they are still traders. Okay, they don't want to rule India. So as their ultimate goal was to earn more and more profit, so they wanted to get the financial rights, zamindari rights over the three cities of Calcutta. Okay, or also known as Kolkata, and its original name was Calicut. Other than another one was Govindpuram. So there were total three cities of West Bengal where they want to get the zamindari right. Now what is zamindari rights? Means they wanted to collect the revenues from the local people of that place. so that through the revenues, what are revenues? The taxes which are paid in the form of the money. Okay, so and the peasants, they used to pay the taxes in the form of the crops. So Britishers, they wanted to get the zamindari right, so that ultimately all the money will go into their pockets. So for that, what they did, they also, that time who was ruling in 17 till 1707, before 1707, who was ruling? Aurangzeb was ruling. Okay, so anyhow these Britishers, they persuaded and they convinced Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb also that kindly issue us a farman, so that in India we can rule here smoothly and nobody will disturb us in doing our trade. Okay, so farman is a kind of a royal order. Farman. Okay, so what is a farman? Farman is a royal edict or a royal order according to which Britishers will get the right to trade duty free. That means no tax payment. Without paying any tax, they will be having the right to do the trade without paying any kind of tax. Okay, so this was a farman. Aurangzeb also got agreed and he issued the farman to the Britishers. So now this was, we can say that this was the biggest privilege or biggest advantage given to the Britishers by Aurangzeb. Now see, now the company slowly and gradually, it was trying to put more concessions, okay, and manipulate existing privileges. What are privileges? The special advantages. For example, what is Farman? Farman is a kind of privilege only, okay. So now what was happening? Now the company, what it started doing? It wanted more and more concessions. More and more concessions means more and more grants it wanted. Okay, and whatever privileges, whatever the special advantages, benefits they have got from Aurangzeb, they started manipulating, means misusing them. Okay, and because of that, what happened? Now they were very freely, they were doing the trade freely, and nobody was there to question them. But what was the condition, or what was the we can say reaction of the local rulers? Who were the local rulers? Our Nawabs of Bengal. So what was their reaction? Were they happy? No. They were not at all happy with the Farman of Aurangzeb and with the way the Britishers, they were doing the trade without paying any tax. Okay, because what the Britishers were doing, now they have got the Farman, so wherever they were going, whatever they were purchasing, they were simply showing the Farman, that paper, that document, to the shopkeeper, okay, to the wholesale market, and they were purchasing the things according to their wish. So this way what happened, and secondly, the Aurangzeb has told them ki you, okay, you can do the trade duty free, but you have to pay the revenue, the tax to the Bengal government. And who was the Bengal government? The local rulers, that is the Nawab. But the Britishers, they were not paying the taxes to the Nawab also. Okay, so we all know that the taxes are also known as revenues, and during that time the revenues were paid in the form of, already I have told you, money, and in the form of crops also. And taxes and revenues are the main source of income for any ruler or Nawabs. So when Nawabs, they saw that Britishers are neither paying the right to trade and nor they are paying any taxes to the local rulers, to the Nawab. So this is how the Bengal was suffering a huge loss of revenue. Enormous loss, enormous means a huge amount of money, huge amount of revenue was not going in the kingdom of Nawabs. And all the money, all money in different ways and different forms are going only in the hands of Britishers. So this is how the local ruler, that time who was ruling over there as a local Nawab, Murshid Quli Khan, he got very much angered, and now let us see what he is going to do. Certainly he is going to protest. You can see here, these are the local boards. In the picture you can see from ships in Madras. Okay, it is a painting. Yeah. So now, as I have told you that the local rulers are not at all happy. So now our new topic is going to start, that now how ultimately the trade led to battles. Now these were the features that the Britishers had made the local rulers very unhappy. So then what happened? The conflict. The conflict means a war or battle-like situation will occur between the Nawab and the company. Now finally is what is going to happen. After the death of Aurangzeb, now what will happen? After 1707, now all the Nawabs, whether the Nawab of Bengal or Hyderabad, okay, or Awadh, they all started asserting. Asserting means demanded. Everybody was demanding their independent kingdoms. Because that time who was ruling after Aurangzeb? Shah Alam. Shah Alam too was ruling. But he was not as powerful as Aurangzeb. Okay, so that is why all Nawabs already they were not happy with Shah Alam. They were also not happy with the Britishers. So they all wanted their separate kingdoms, independent kingdoms. So amongst them, the first one was Murshid Quli Khan. Okay, and then afterwards, who had succeeded? Succeeded means who got the position of Nawab after his death. So after his death, Alivardi Khan he became the second Nawab, and after Alivardi Khan, Sirajudullah he became the new Nawab of Bengal. Okay, so this was the, we can say, the hierarchy of Nawabs of Bengal. And now the Nawabs of Bengal, they were not at all happy with the way the Britishers were doing the trade over there. So ultimately, when the third Nawab, who was the third Nawab? Sirajudullah. You must have heard his name also. He was very famous and very powerful. Yeah, he was the most powerful Nawab of Bengal and very strict and very strong also. When he took over the power, then he clearly told Britishers 4 or 5 things. Okay, he told them that you will not do any fortification in our local place in Bengal, and then you are not going to you are not going to mint any coins over there, because now the Britishers they started minting the coins also on their names, the European coins. And the first and the foremost thing the Sirajullah told the Britishers, that you will not doing any duty free trade. Now you all have to pay the taxes. If you want to do trade here, you have to pay the taxes to the Nawabs, that is to us. So these were some of the conditions which Sirajudullah had cleared to all the Britishers, and he also gave the warning to all the Britishers that you will not write any disrespectful letters, as you can see here. He had given the warning to all the Britishers that you will not write any disrespectful letters to the Nawab. Okay, you're not going to spoil their image, you will not deteriorate their images, and you will not humiliate or insult any Nawab and his officers, his commanders. So because of these were some of the terms and conditions which were put forth by Sirajudullah. So the Britishers, they were not happy. Okay, so that is why what happened, the conflict means battle, the warlike situation. So it got intensified. Intensified means more serious, more stronger, more extreme. So the problems have grown more serious and the conflict had got intensified. Now the question is that what was the company reaction? Will the company will sit quietly obey Sirajudullah? No. The company has also put their stand and they have told that your duty taxes are very higher. Your taxes are very higher and we are not able to pay your taxes. And that is why it is so impossible for us to trade here. Okay. So neither company was ready to come to any agreement or conclusion, and nor Sirajudullah he wanted to show any concession or consideration, okay, on the Britishers. So ultimately now we will see that the conflicts led to confrontations, means now the military campaigns and the military conquest is going to take place. Means finally on the battleground the conflict will take place. The confrontations means a fight. The battle will be fought between both the parties, that is Nawab of Bengal Sirajudullah and the Britishers. They will have the battle with each other, and this was the first battle. This was known as Battle of Plassey, and Plassey is a place, yeah, Plassey is a place in Bengal, and here the Plassey word has come from the word Palash, and Palash is a Hindi word. It is the name of a flower, red color flower, and when we dry up the flower petals and we are making the dry color gulal for Holi. So the place where this battle was fought, it was covered with these trees of Palash flowers. So that is why the name of this place has given to Plassey. Okay. So finally children, now we are going to read about the first battle, the very first important battle which is going to change the complete history of India. Okay, the Battle of Plassey in Bengal. So when first Nawab Alivardi Khan, when he died in the year 1756, then ultimately Sirajudullah, he had succeeded the throne of Bengal, and now company was already not at all happy with Sirajudullah, because he was very strict. Okay, and when he came in power, he had given so many warnings to the company, and amongst them the important was that the company had to pay the taxes. If they had wanted to do the trade in India, they had to pay the taxes. Okay, but the company, they wanted a puppet ruler. Now who is a puppet? Okay, that way everybody has seen the puppet, especially the people of Rajasthan know very well what is puppet. It is a kind of a toy which you can move with the movement of your with the strings tied in your hands. And but here the meaning of puppet according to the lesson is that a person who is controlled by someone else. Okay, and the person who is not having any right or power in his hands, he cannot make any decision, and he has to become the puppet of the authorities. So now the company was very worried with the Sirajullah, and they wanted a puppet ruler, and Nawab, he was not ready to tolerate with the conditions. So he had told very clearly, if you want to do trade here, you have to pay the taxes. Okay, so now let us see what had happened now. And Sirajullah also told that one more reason is there, that why the Nawabs are very unhappy with the Britishers. Because now the company was also interfering, meddling. You can see here, an infuriated Sirajullah means the Sirajullah was very furious, very much angry, very much annoyed with the attitude and the interfering nature of company. Okay, so he asked the company to stop meddling. Meddling means interfering in the political affairs of his dominion, of his kingdom, and he told them clearly that you will not do any fortification. No fortification, no army, no weapons, no soldiers you are going to keep here. You have come to India for trading purpose, so you will do only trade. And for trade, you have to pay the revenues compulsorily. No concession will be given to you on that behalf. Okay, so but the company wanted a puppet ruler so that they can earn a huge profit. So now what happened? Ultimately, from both the sides, negotiation was going on. Negotiation means a kind of discussion was going on so that they can ultimately arrive to some healthy conclusion, healthy result. But the negotiations failed. No solution came out, and finally what happened now? Nawab. What was the impact now? When the negotiations were failed, what was the impact? Now Nawab Sirajullah, he was very furious, so he had taken two actions. In the first action, what he did, Nawab with the army, he marched with 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Godown of Kasim Bazar in Bengal. Kasim Bazar is a place in the Bengal. There he captured, who captured? Nawab. There Nawab captured the company officers, and he locked down the warehouse. Warehouses means where all the goods were kept for the trade purpose. And he also disarmed. Disarmed means he had taken away all the arms and weapons of the English officers, and he had blockaded English ships also. Blockaded means he did not allow the ships to transport, to sail into the sea for further trade. So this is how a very strict action was taken by Nawab. Okay, and on hearing this news, what happened? Now we will see on the third line, Robert Clive. Robert Clive, he was a commander in Madras. Okay, so now not only in Bengal, but Britishers, they had occupied Madras also that time. So Robert Clive was a commander in Madras. So what he did, Robert Clive, he sent his naval fleets. Okay, naval means, fleets means army, and naval means the army through the water for the water transport. So Sirajudullah did one more thing. He marched to Calcutta to establish his control over the companies over there. So in that we can say that in Calcutta, in Bengal, completely Sirajullah, he had removed the Britishers from there. And now for a shorter period of time only, now Bengal had got rid of the Britishers, and the complete administration was of Sirajudullah. Now the companies also did not sit quietly. So first of all, Robert Clive, when he heard the news that our so many officers are they were imprisoned, So he had set the naval fleets. He has sent the naval fleets. Okay. And then finally in the year 1757, the army of Robert Clive and Sirajullah, they both were facing each other at the place Plassey in Bengal. Now see here. And one of the main reason, see now directly here it is mentioned here children, that the first war finally had taken place in the year 1757 at Plassey. And what was the result of the war? Nawab Sirajullah, he was very badly defeated. Unfortunately, it was a very saddest part that Nawab was defeated. And one more character is going to take the entry now in the story, and he is Mir Jafar. Mir Jafar was one of the Sirajullah's military commander. Okay, and because of him, he was only the root cause, he was only the main reason that why Sirajullah, he had lost the battle. He had not lost the battle, but ultimately India had lost the battle. And the main reason was the betrayal, that is a cheating of Mir Jafar. He had proved himself as a traitor, a cheater. And what he did, now we all know that the Britishers since beginning only they were following the very diplomatic or cruel policy of divide and rule. So what he did, Robert Clive, he secretly met Mir Jafar and he gave him an offer. He bribed him, okay, that if you will join hands with us and if you will help us in defeating Sirajullah in the battle of Plassey, then we will make you Nawab of Bengal. And Mir Jafar was Mir Jafar. He was already a very greedy person. He was looking forward to become a Nawab since a long time. So he immediately, without any thought, he accepted the offer of Britishers, Robert Clive. And he then, so this was the reason. What he did not bring the army. He did not bring the Sirajullah's army in the battle. Robert Clive army was there, but the Sirajullah, he did not participate because he did not bring the army. And this is how Sirajullah had lost the battle, because of the betrayal step of Mir Jafar. So we can see that the Battle of Plassey was very famous battle, and the first battle which was conquered by Britishers, and it proved to be the turning point in India. India history was completely changed. And slowly and gradually after this only our India will come under the control of Britishers. And now what happened? See. Now what happened children? After the Battle of Plassey, Sirajullah, he was assassinated, means he was killed, and Mir Jafar was made the Nawab. Okay. Now the company in the beginning, it thought now this Mir Jafar is a puppet ruler, so he is going to listen to us completely, but it did not happen. It did not happen. And why? The first reason, before I touched upon that topic, first of all, the question is that now the Britishers, they were victorious over Plassey. So why did themselves did not become the Nawab, or why did themselves they did not become the ruler? So the first reason was that the Britishers' motive was trade only. They wanted to earn more and more profit. They did not want to rule in India. Still after the Battle of Plassey, they did not want to be the rulers of India. And also one more thing, they were knowing that now here the people of India are not going to accept them as a ruler, because ultimately we are foreigners. Okay, so that is why their prime objective, main objective was only to expand the trade and to earn huge profit. Okay. Now see, very soon the company understood that it is so difficult to work with Mir Jafar, because they were looking for a puppet ruler and they thought that the Mir Jafar will work as a puppet ruler. Okay. But it did not happen. Now what happened? Mir Jafar, when he became the Nawab, he started treating himself as a Nawab. And now he started working on his subjects. Subjects means people. He started giving respect to the subjects' issues and their problems, and the developmental programs also he started taking interest upon. So he was paying more attention towards his subject, towards his people. Okay, who are the subjects? Subjects are the people or the public on which any ruler is ruling. So he was paying more attention to his subjects, and the Britishers did not like this idea. Okay, And the Britishers also in front of the public, they have to maintain their dignity ki yeah, he is a Nawab and we have to respect him, we have to follow him. But actually in real, again the situation and the relationship between Mir Jafar and the company were not healthy. Okay, and the Mir Jafar, he was not ready to follow the order of Britishers. So he also protested, he also rebelled. Okay, so now see children, now so many twists and turns are going to take place in this story. Now what happened? Then the company, what he did, the company deposed Mir Jafar and now they are installed, means appointed Mir Qasim in the place of Mir Jafar as the Nawab. And who was Mir Qasim? He was son-in-law. He was son-in-law of Mir Jafar and now he has become the Nawab. Okay. And now again Mir Qasim. Mir Qasim also after some days, what happened? He also started protesting. Okay, so what was the guarantee that when Mir Qasim has replaced Mir Jafar, so what was the guarantee that Mir Qasim will also follow the rules and the regulations of the Britishers very honestly, very quietly? No. When he also became Nawab, he also refused to work like a puppet ruler and he protested. So then ultimately what happened? Mir Qasim, he was complaining and then he joined his hands with Shah Alam II, that is the Mughal Empire, and the Nawab of our Shujaudullah. He is another Nawab, Shujaudullah. So he is going to make a team, he is going to collaborate with all these people, he is going to make a team, and finally now they are going to, Mir Qasim is going to fight a battle, the second battle with the Britishers. This was the second battle of the Britishers, and this battle was fought between the Britishers and Mir Qasim. And in this battle, Mir Qasim got the support of Mughal Empire, Shah Alam II, and Nawab of Awadh, Shujaudullah. But ultimately what happened? This battle was fought at Buxar, okay, nearby Patna in the year 1764. Okay, and in this battle also who were victorious? Britishers. Britishers, they were victorious and this battle was fought on April, and Shujaudullah was having the army, very huge army of 1.5 lakh soldiers. But the Britishers, they fought with all modern weapons and ammunitions, and since the war started at 9 o'clock until 12 o'clock only, the war was in, the result was in favor of the Britishers. Now what happened again? Mir Qasim was defeated and once again now Mir Jafar was reinstalled. Means he was placed, he was seated as a Nawab once again by Britishers as a Nawab of Bengal. So again the turning point, the twist and turn has come. Okay, and now what happened children? Now Britishers, they had to suffer a huge loss in the Battle of Buxar. So they have told Mir Jafar very clearly that now as a compensation, okay, as we had suffered a huge loss, so you have to pay every month to us rupees 500,000, that is 5 lakhs rupees. Okay, that time also children, you can understand very well that the 5 lakhs rupees were having huge value. So the Nawab had to pay every month 5 lakhs rupees to the Britishers. Okay, and now still the company wanted more and more money. And after 1 year, what happened children? Mir Jafar, he also died in the year 1765. Okay, and now ultimately, you can see in the last line, ultimately now Robert Clive, he had declared, he said that now it is so difficult to work with the Nawabs because these Nawabs, they are not doing the work according to our wishes and they're revolting and protesting again and again. So finally Robert Clive, he declared that we must indeed become Nawabs ourselves. It means that we do not want any more puppet Nawabs. We do not want any more Nawabs and we will be Nawabs of ourselves. Okay. Now children, have a look at the first, this para and second line. So finally in the year 1765, the Mughal Emperor, who was a Mughal Emperor ruling in India that time in Delhi, from Delhi, Shah Alam II. Now Shah Alam II was also defeated. Nawab of Awadh was also defeated. Mir Qasim was also defeated. So now Britishers were treating with the Mughal Emperor as a defeated ruler. They were not respecting the Mughal ruler. So that's why they had forced the Mughal Empire that now please you have to declare the Britishers as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. Now what do you mean by Diwan? Diwan means one who is having all the financial rights. all the rights to collect the revenues and the taxes from the common people of that area. Okay, it means now the direct the money will go in the hands of Britishers. Okay, so now the Mughal Emperor finally in 1765 they have approved and appointed Britishers as the Diwan of Bengal. So now when they became the Nawab of Bengal, now the situation is completely changed because now the Britishers are going to earn huge profit, more and more profit, because now the money will go completely into the hands of Britishers. Okay. Now before that, children, if you talk about the 18th century, what was the scenario when Britishers they came as traders in India? Were they so powerful? Economically, financially, were they so much sufficient, self-sufficient? No. When they came to India for the purpose of trade, they had to call the gold and silver coins to purchase the trades and the spices from India. From Britain, from Queen Elizabeth I, they had to call the money. But now the situation is totally changed. Now they are getting a lot of money, lot of profit in the form of Diwani rights. So now they are, if they have appointed the governor also, they have kept the troops also. See, they have to maintain the troops, means army also, soldier salary also. So all means they were fulfilling all the expenses with the help of the revenue which they were collecting because of the Diwani rights. So because of the Diwali rights, now the Britishers, they have become very self-sufficient. Economically, they have become very strong. And now they were purchasing the goods also with that money. And they were maintaining the company army also, giving the salaries also. Fortification also they were doing with that money. And the governors and the officers which they were appointing at Calcutta and Bengal, their salary also they were giving with that money only.